Hello, Overwatch community. It is I, Overwatch Grandma.
Who the hell is Overwatch Grandma?
Given all the new and exciting things that have been announced this week with Overwatch's Spotlight, I think it's time we had a little chat. And I thought about making this big, edited video thing, but I think this topic needs a more heart-to-heart vibe. I want to start off by saying that, for myself at least, even though I really love Overwatch, and I play it almost every day, I gotta be honest. For the last year, I've just been kind of coasting. I tried Rebels too, but it just doesn't scratch that itch. And it's not that I've been unhappy with Overwatch exactly, but I just didn't feel inspired with it the way I used to either. I just loved logging in and playing Ana, and if funny stuff happened, then I posted about it, but I haven't really made content like this in a long time. That being said, after the Spotlight this week, I felt a little bit of that spark in my heart. It's not a full-blown fire, not yet, but it has potential. And I will say, it feels really good to be excited again. I am genuinely happy for every creator that got to go to the Spotlight and experience all the new heroes and stuff firsthand. I am especially excited for my friend Fyrie being the voice of Onran. I know how much she's wanted this and how hard she's worked, and she fits Onran so perfectly. I'm also especially excited to have dedicated lore that will play out throughout the entire year and influence the game, modes, maps, comics, and the in-game universe. I'm just excited to see people excited. There's a lot to be excited about, but not everyone is that excited. And it's not even that people think the changes are bad or anything necessarily. It just didn't have the level of excitement I think they were expecting. And I think that's fine. People feel how they feel, and personally, I would prefer people say how they actually feel in the moment rather than pretend to be hype and then turn around and doom post or rage bait later for the engagement. The Overwatch team has always been very open about how they want the community to say how they feel, because those frustrations, those criticisms, those pain points help them to make meaningful changes for their players. Now, that's not always a fast process or an easy one, and sometimes they get it wrong. Very often, players have conflicting feelings or ideas about the same issues, and there's no way to truly make both sides of the coin happy. We're all individuals who have subjective experiences in the game. We all play different heroes in different ranks, and the problems and frustrations we experience can be very, very different based on those things. I don't envy the devs one bit having to sift through all that conflicting information and feedback and data and try to adjust all these dials and levers that, at the end of the day, comes down to trying to make something feel better for as many people as possible, because sometimes things look good on paper, but they feel awful. But that's not really what I'm talking about here. Balance will always be a complex thing, and someone's always going to feel like they're getting screwed, or that a change or lack thereof is targeting them specifically. What I'm talking about is Overwatch's past. There's a lot of things in Overwatch's past that has merited criticism. Some of that criticism is very warranted. It broke trust in the community in some pretty significant ways. But the pattern I'm starting to see is that people bring up these past mistakes constantly on every bit of good change, new content, or steps in the right direction that Overwatch makes. Even if they're totally unrelated, a lot of these criticisms about things that have already been improved upon or fixed, or criticizing things that were openly admitted to have been mishandled, while ignoring the team's hard work to redirect the game after those mistakes. Or just straight up blaming the Overwatch devs for misconduct by Blizzard that they had nothing to do with, and just using that to write off every good thing the game gets as cover-up. Yeah, right. Like Overwatch devs are just psychic and somehow managed to plan for years in advance, knowing Blizzard CEOs are going to show up in the Epstein files and be magically able to schedule game dev around scandals before they even see the light of day. Like, come on, guys. Now here's the thing. I'm not against people being critical of Overwatch. Like I said before, I think it's good for the game. But some of these talking points are so tired and outdated and just plain misinformed. Other talking points are just so wildly uncharitable, like just assuming the absolute worst of the Overwatch team at every turn. Like they're just actively trying to sabotage their own game so they can, I don't know, lose their job, I guess. Because like, why would they do that? That doesn't even make sense. I want you, dear Overwatch player, to stop and think about the way you are critical about Overwatch. Because I think our approach as a community and how we give feedback is crucial to getting the changes we want to see in the game. And that's not just how we treat the devs, who are human beings, by the way, in case you forgot, but how we treat each other. See, when you get mad about something in regards to Overwatch, when you find yourself reaching for those uncharitable gotcha arguments, I want you to ask yourself, seriously ask yourself, do you actually want Overwatch to get better? I know what your knee-jerk reaction is going to be, of course, obviously. Maybe you felt defensive. Maybe you felt defensive over other things I've said so far. I think that's normal. But when I want to see actual change, be that in the game I enjoy or even of other human beings, I ask myself, am I saying what I'm saying to improve the situation, make people think, or really have an honest discussion? Am I reacting emotionally? If so, how can I express my emotions in a way that they will understand what I want or understand what I find frustrating? Reacting emotionally isn't bad. We can't control our emotions, but we can control how we express them and how we treat others in the process. At the end of the day, our feelings are our responsibility. They're our reality, but they're not everyone's reality. Being self-critical and self-aware helps us give better feedback, and genuinely, you're going to probably find you make yourself a lot less angry. This includes asking yourself kind of uncomfortable questions and being really, really honest about the answers. Are you truly looking for change, or do you just want to feel good or feel superior over people who are excited about their favorite game getting a new direction or getting new content? Is it coming from a place of wanting the game to be better or just having a gotcha moment? Unfortunately, a lot of online reactions have become the latter. We react and we can put our thoughts instantly into the world without truly processing or thinking about why we feel that way. We see a strong negative reaction and it resonates inside us. It makes us feel validated and seen. And we don't even question that or fact check it or think about how our subjective experience doesn't make something a fact. Gaming is no exception. Actually, I think gaming might actually be worse because people put a lot of their identities into the games they play. Games are an escape from the outside world. They're where we get to feel powerful, where we get to escape from real life and how much that sucks right now. Which again, I think is fine, as long as you are aware of that fact. I know I personally get defensive of Overwatch when I feel people are being unfair or interpreting the worst possible intentions out of the team, because I've met a lot of those people and I know how much they care. Placing value judgments on a dev team because you don't like balance changes is fucking weird. It's parasocial, and thoughts like that just serve to make you feel mad and justified in that anger. Obviously, if they aren't making the game exactly what I want, well, they're just bad people. And how are we supposed to move forward in this community if we continue to approach every issue and every victory in bad faith? For example, Overwatch 2 dropping the 2. This has been met with a lot of grumpy voices crying out in unison to complain, which shocks me, actually shocks me, because weren't these the same voices who were constantly, persistently, endlessly saying that Overwatch 2 as a sequel was pointless without PvE? And I don't even disagree with that. Overwatch 2 was pitched with the very express idea that there would be a whole PvE story mode. And after the launch of Overwatch 2, it became clear that PvE was not going to be sustainable. At least not sustainable and good. And I know there's a lot of people who said, the devs lied, they gaslit us, they never intended to make PvE, it's all just a cash grab to monetize the game. And a lot of this frustrates me, because not only is it placing a value judgment on the devs that they can't possibly know, quote unquote, they lied, but also because I had a lot more firsthand knowledge than the average player. So at the first Creator Summit, a couple months before Overwatch 2's launch, I was talking with Aaron Keller about PvE, and he was so excited about all the hiring they were doing for PvE modes. And it just seems insane to me to lie about it in that moment, in a very personal setting, about hiring people. It's also insane to me that people believe that the dev team would want to sabotage their own game. That's their work, their jobs, their livelihood. They have every incentive to want the game to succeed. They are as much, if not more, at the behest of bad CEO decision-making, or even the decision-making of former leadership. And unfortunately, Jeff Kaplan's decision at the beginning of Overwatch 2's conception, which was to refuse to hire a bigger team to make it happen, is very likely what resulted in PvE's ultimate failure. And PvE was a failure. And unfortunately for Aaron Keller, he had to be the face of admitting that mistake. That was like one of the first things he had to do. And that takes guts. To be able to get in front of a community who are so excited for this shiny new idea and tell them they can't make it happen. It sucked. It sucked for us. It sucked for the game. It sucked for the team. It sucked for the devs who put so much work into PvE and PvE elements, only for it to never see the light of day. Just in case you're wondering, if I got interrupted? The answer is yes. The answer is very much yes. Just put that away. And some people continue to punish Team 4 for those mistakes, despite them suffering every bit from PvE's demise as we did. Some of them even more than we did, because they lost their jobs over it. So it confuses me when the community punishes Overwatch for dropping the 2, when they've been calling it a pointless sequel this whole time. Why are we once again assuming the worst possible intent here? When I look at the team taking the 2 away from Overwatch, I see a dev team willing to say, finally, hey, that decision was a mistake. We need to stop trying to make Overwatch 2 happen or pretend that it was a smart move. I don't see this as them trying to go backwards either. Dropping the 2 feels more like a promise to go back to the values that made Overwatch so awesome in the first place. And while I don't think it's there yet, I think they've made some very amazing steps in the last year that have shown they're dedicated to turning the ship around. But it's a big ship, and I know it's not going to turn around overnight. And even if things do seem to change overnight, I would be a little bit suspicious. Now, I also see people giving a lot of credit to Rivals, or smugly suggesting that Overwatch is just copying Rivals. Come on. A lot of what we're seeing today, based on what I know of game development, has to have been in the works long before Marvel Rivals released. There is a fuck ton of content, lore, new heroes, things that take time. Years. During which time, Overwatch has suffered some pretty significant layoffs. However, I will concede that their new approach to releasing content and how much they wanted to make this announcement feel big and exciting, yeah, I can see how Rivals might have lit a fire under that decision. And that's great for Overwatch. Like, why are we being critical of that? Like they did something wrong in trying to be more competitive. I've also heard some people say like, well, okay, if they can release this many heroes, they could have always done it, so like, why didn't they? And I can see why people might think that. And I think that might be a valid criticism. But here's where I think Rivals probably actually helped Overwatch big time. One thing to understand about game development is this. Competition doesn't just affect a team's drive to do more, release more content to keep up, and keep competitive. It affects a team's ability to ask upper management for more resources. It's very easy for CEOs to sit pretty on an IP, and there's very little true competition, and not budge the budget needle. Make Mercy skins? Profit. It's very easy to sit here and assume the worst possible intentions from Team 4, to call them lazy or complacent. But what I think is actually more likely is that Marvel Rivals finally gave Team 4 an exceptional bargaining chip to ask for more resources. Remember how Microsoft laid off a fuck ton of people on the Overwatch team when they took over? Many of them were linked to PvE and lore/narrative. Talented people like Justin Groot, I'm still pissed about that by the way, got canned. What limited PvE stuff we did get was already not sustainable, but in that moment, that was the true death knell for PvE. They already didn't have enough resources to maintain PvP and PvE modes and have them both be good. And because of that, Microsoft took even more resources away. Obviously, I can't confirm this. It's just my personal, assuming good intentions over bad ones to combat some of those negative assumptions based on what I know about game development. It's easy to sit back and wonder why they didn't do this or didn't do that. Maybe they couldn't. Or maybe they just knew it would take time and they didn't want to say more until they had a unified vision of how it would all work. Maybe they wanted to be able to show us instead of telling us for once. Because so many people have already had damaged trust over PvE. Because unfortunately, even though I don't personally believe Team 4 actively lied about PvE, I think that's an assumption and not a fact, I do think people feeling lied to is a valid thing to feel considering how it all happened. I just hope people remember that it's very likely the devs felt lied to too. But feelings aren't facts, and we do need to stop conflating the two if we want to have an honest, productive discussion about the game. Which is really a long-ass tangent that brings me back to my point. PvE didn't happen. That's a fact. PvE will not be happening. Another fact. What you, as a player, need to decide. Is that a deal breaker? If so, then I understand walking away from Overwatch. In fact, I encourage it. There are so many good story games out there for you to enjoy. I wish it could have happened for Overwatch, but it didn't. We can't go back. So, if we bring up PvE every time Overwatch brings out something new, what exactly are we hoping to accomplish? How does that improve Overwatch? How does that help them make a better game? Or do you just want them to feel as badly as you apparently feel about it? At what point do we, as a community, move forward? And how? I'm not suggesting that we forget. Overwatch can't learn from its mistakes if we forget about them. But at some point, we have to choose to move past it. If your trust is truly so broken forever, then for your own mental well-being, please find a game that you enjoy. I know plenty of people who do still want to see Overwatch succeed, even though it's not their favorite game anymore, because they do love it and it was important to them. But we can't do that by moving the goalposts constantly. And PvE is a talking point that has no goalposts. There's no winning. They can't do it. That's it. So, ask yourselves, what can Overwatch do for us now? We can't forget, but can we forgive? That's not a question I can answer for anybody else. For me, when it comes to forgiveness, I have to see active change happening. I have to see a commitment to doing better. And I'm going to be honest, in the last year and a half, I do feel like they've been working towards that commitment. Clearly, a lot more has been happening behind the scenes than we ever thought possible. And maybe other people haven't seen the signs, and that's why I don't fully trust it yet. And I get that. I think that makes sense. But like, if someone is truly sorry, and they're like, hey, wow, sorry, I really fucked that up. Tell me how I can do better. Let me show you I can change. And I know I'm not going to get your trust back overnight, but I really want to try. And then you keep bringing up every mistake every time they make progress. Or anytime they make the tiniest slip up, you remind them how much they suck. You aren't really giving them any space or grace to change. Acting like any attempt to do better is just a manipulation meant to screw you over again. There's a certain point where that's not their fault. The Overwatch team is not some Machiavellian, shadowy empire trying to deceive you. They're artists, writers, gamers. Most of them likely grew up dreaming of working for their favorite gaming company one day, or working on their favorite game. While corporations largely can't be trusted, and sometimes dev teams have to make the best out of a shitty situation, I promise you, they aren't trying to ruin your experience specifically, no matter how much you might feel that way. This doesn't mean your frustrations aren't sometimes valid. This doesn't mean that your experience doesn't have helpful insight in what they can do to improve. It also doesn't mean you shouldn't ever be negative or critical. But if we all want Overwatch to be better, we have to fucking let them try. At some point, we have to get the fuck out of our own way. We have to let the hatred in our hearts go, reduce expectations to zero, and sit back with an open mind like, okay, show us what you got. No one can turn back time. Go into the past and make those mistakes not happen. I mean, look what happened to Tracer. You are under no obligation to forgive Overwatch. I want to make that clear. But if that's the case, and you have nothing constructive to contribute to the conversation anymore, it's time to take a step back and reevaluate why it's so important for you to try and make other people as miserable about the game as you are. Why do you need people to be mad about the same things that make you mad? There's lots to be critical about that I feel is pretty fair. Onrun's face being vastly different from her cinematic is definitely one of them. She looks wildly younger than Wu Yang, and she's supposed to be the older sister. I think people are being pretty fair about that one, and some of these same face issues. So, all the other people who saw this one very fair criticism take off and decided every other new character needed something drastically changed about their face seems a lot less genuine critical thinking and more about reactions and clicks. I can't even tell if some of them are joking. I genuinely can't tell who's serious or not anymore. I'm getting too old for this. All I know is this. We can't complain that Overwatch isn't doing this and that, and then also complain when they do those things. I mean, we can, it's freedom of speech and all that, but does it actually get us what we want? I'm not saying don't complain. I'm saying let's complain smarter. Overwatch is never going to have the shiny newness of a new game. It's not a new game. It's never going to be a new game again. Dropping the 2 is an admission of that. We're going into Overwatch's 10-year anniversary this year. Y'all, that's a long-term relationship. For those of us who have been playing since launch, we are well out of the honeymoon phase. And we forget that relationships that are new are much easier because they're exciting. It's easier to overlook the glaring errors. It's easier to ignore the things that annoy us. It's easier to laugh at things we might normally find frustrating. These things only become obvious later. And sometimes they're a deal breaker, and that's fine. No relationship, nor video game can be all things to all people. But if you want a relationship to actually work, when you get annoyed or angry, sometimes you have to sit back and think, is this issue really that serious? Am I upset for a good reason? Or am I just tired, frustrated, hangry? Is this actually their fault? Or is this a sore point for me as an individual and something I should be working on? What would they actually need to do to make me feel better about this issue? Am I holding on to the idea I have of this game being so much better in the past? Or is that just the rose-colored glasses of something new and exciting? Maybe it's just my mentality. I love Overwatch. I literally play it every day. Part of that has been autopilot. It's my comfort game. Ana's my comfort character. I love playing her. Even if new heroes aren't as exciting for me, I'll always have Ana. But for the first time in a long time, I'm excited. I'm excited about the lore. I'm excited about speculating what will happen next. I'm excited to make content. Y'all, I haven't so much as produced a TikTok for Overwatch in over a year. And now I'm putting out this rant from the heart on a whim. Because I'm excited. Really excited. And I don't expect everyone to be as excited as I am. I don't expect others to not have doubts. I even think having doubts is healthy and normal, especially considering we've been let down before. It can be hard to trust again. It's hard to believe anything until you actually see them doing the things they say they will do, and doing them consistently. You don't have to give them that chance. But if you truly want to see the game do better, I'm just hoping more people approach it with less of the assuming the worst possible intentions thing. Gotcha moments, bringing up mistakes they can't do anything about, or not being happy no matter what they do, man, there's a certain point where you gotta look inward. Just like in your competitive games, you can blame your team all you want, but at the end of the day, you're the only consistent factor in every game. And there's a point where your mentality is holding you back from your own enjoyment. My biggest hope for Overwatch is that we, as a community, can heal from past mistakes and truly engage with the game we have today, rather than trying to fight ghosts of the past. I want to see people have genuine discussions about issues they feel strongly about, and proposing solutions they would love to see. I want to see people be pleasantly surprised when the dev team reverts a decision that the community vehemently opposes.
Blade, you ready?
Oh, the top right, both enfeebled! Going in! Wait, the dragon's gonna do nothing, they were enfeebled!
Rather than cynically going, wow, they went back to the old thing we didn't hate. Lamau, that's suspicious. I want to see people figure out where the lore is going, and make ship art, and post funny memes. I want to see people stop trying to make everything a Rivals versus Overwatch problem. I don't mind disagreements. I even think to an extent they're healthy, but only if you're willing to be open to new information. It's healthy to change your mind when you learn new things, or maybe discover facts you didn't know before. But like, man, can we just talk to each other like people? Can we stop with this petty, low-effort sniping of one another? Can we stop pitting creators against one another? This infighting is old and tired and boring. My other hope for Overwatch is that Team 4 finally decides what kind of game they want Overwatch to be and just full send it. We're starting to see the beginnings of that, I think, with the spotlight that we saw this week, and I really hope that we see more. Nothing is perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect. But at this point, I'm willing to sit back and enjoy the ride. I'm not a super critical person. I'm more of a feedback kind of guy. And if something is frustrating me, I usually just assume I need to get good. But I do prefer listening to the things I hear my community complain about and passing on what seems to be common pain points. Because for me, I want the team to hear something constructive, something they can actually build on. And I also want my community to feel heard and to feel like the things they get frustrated about are being addressed. So, when I say complain smarter, what I mean is, if you're being critical, really ask yourself, do you want to see tangible change? What would that change look like? Because it's easy to lash out in frustration or anger, or assume something is as big of a problem for everyone else as it is for us. But this game isn't just for one person, or even one kind of person. It's for a wide variety of people, and that's always been its appeal. It's not realistic to expect Overwatch to always cater to what you, an individual player, very specifically wants. The last thing I think you should ask yourself is your issue even fixable? And if not, well, it's up to you to decide whether that's a deal breaker or not. If Overwatch doesn't spark joy, if you don't want to give it another chance, you don't have to. It's okay to walk away. I'm like literally giving you permission or a sign if you need that. You can actually just leave. That's fine. But please, please stop being miserable to others. Like they should feel the same if they're excited about something and you aren't. Go outside, touch grass, write it on a piece of paper and burn it. Literally anything else. I know why I'm here. I'm here because I want Overwatch to be the best version of itself. And now that the dev team has decided that that's what they want too, I'm ready to see what they do with that. So, Overwatch community, I want to ask you, and I want you to really think about it.
What do you want? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want? God damn it. What do you want?
What do you actually want for Overwatch? Esper, what do you want? You want laser? I want Jetpack Cat, and if you don't, you're objectively wrong. Okay, bye.